What could be more devastating than to be told that you have only months to live? What would you do? How would you cope? And if you're a teenager, when you feel virtually immortal, could you even believe it was happening? You're about to meet a young man who has had to face and answer all of those questions to himself. Because of the way he has faced them, Andrew's journey is a story without pity or tears. It is Bob Brown who has gotten to know this young man, and here is Bob's report.
In a hospital on the outskirts of Amsterdam, 23-year-old Andrew Seligson is being injected with a solution of radioactive iodine.
You're feeling that? While I'm injecting it?
It's cold.
It's cold.
It is the beginning of a test.
Should be cold. The product is better when it's cold.
It's easy for you to say.
Depending on the test results, Andrew may be given a transfusion of the substance. Part of a new cancer treatment we'll learn about later, one that will make him so radioactive he will be quarantined in this hospital for a week. Holland was only one stopover in a long journey for Andrew. In a harrowing race with technology, he has survived to reach the age of 23 because medicine continued to advance just a step ahead of his disease, his cancer. Aside from the injections designed to destroy tumors along his spine, he has had surgery, chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and a bone marrow transplant. In that same period of time, he has also continued to ski, go to school, drive fast cars, and travel, staying as active as his treatments would allow to avoid being viewed as different because of his illness.
For a long time, everyone's been telling me, you must be such a strong person, and for 5 years, I just wanted to tell those people to go to hell. I'm no different than you are, and don't treat me any different. And it isn't until the last couple of years that I've come to realize that I guess I'm a little different. I've put what most people would consider a lifetime into about 6 years, the way I see it. It's just been a roller coaster that just hasn't stopped.
For his first 17 years, Andrew lived a charmed life, raised in a wealthy Long Island family. He was a popular student with the looks of a fashion model and the ability to play on this prep school hockey team. It was after he'd been shaken up in a hockey game in February 1980, the day after his 17th birthday, that he first noticed the symptoms of his cancer, a burning sensation that got progressively worse until his mother Edith took him to the hospital.
Doctors all came in and did their doctor things. You know, they come in there and give you little doctor taps, and they left the room. And they left the room, and I started playing around doctor a lot myself. And I got to about here, and I almost fainted because my stomach had a protrusion from it about 3 or 4 inches, a big bulge sticking out. And I screamed for my mom to come in, and she came in, and I said, Mom, there's something sticking out here.
What did they eventually take out?
A 14-pound tumor. Then we went in for this meeting, and this is when they sat us down and said, we're going to start you on a 2-year course of chemotherapy. And even then, I didn't realize what that entails. I wasn't very familiar with it. And then he told me, more than likely, you're going to lose all your hair. And that's when it hit me. I've kind of been quite fond of mirrors throughout my life. And they said that to me, and that's the first time I ever remember losing it. I just was hysterical.
And I probably reacted the worst of any member of the family.
Just in... reacted the worst in what?
Well, I just about collapsed for about 2 years.
It just happened in our life that we just had no clue how to deal with this kind of thing. And certainly our daughters, too. It threw their lives into turmoil.
So as Andrew began a period of chemotherapy in April 1980, his world was changing not only because of his illness, but because of the way even his family began to relate to him.
No one wants to think of you as a regular person. No one wants to talk to you about the daily baseball scores or what kind of beer you like, or when was the last girl you went out with, or something like that, or to yell at you if you got a bad grade on a paper or something. And
anger became one of the motivations Andrew used to fight his disease. Finishing high school, even working as a summer camp counselor, defying in his way the devastating side effects of 18 months of chemotherapy. Then he went off to the University of Colorado. But a year later, in October 1982, the pain returned, and he and his family consulted specialists here at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Because Andrew thought he had beaten his cancer, he was not prepared to hear what Dr. Audrey Evans told him and his family.
We were sitting on the side of the table, as you do, with the parents there, and Andrew was somewhere standing by the window. He was sort of pacing around. It really was sort of tough for him. So I had to say, yes, indeed, the disease was back, and that not only that, is that it spread and it was in the bones, and the outlook's very bad.
And I said to her, I said, what do you mean? I said, you mean to tell me I'm going to die? And she looked me in the eye and said, yes, that's what I mean to tell you. You have about 6 months to live.
I'm sure Edith was crying. I'm sure I was crying, I don't know. I'm nearly crying now. And so they were just about to leave, and Andrew was holding his father. So Andrew was comforting his father, and he was standing behind him and sort of holding him like this, and it really was a powerful thing.
Somebody told us right from out of the blue that Andrew was gone. It's tough. It was very tough.
Andrew's cancer is a neuroblastoma, which develops from immature nerve cells. Because it had entered his bones, doctors did raise an alternative that just then, in the race with technology, was being tried in similar cases. The option? A bone marrow transplant. But Andrew's chances of surviving it were only 1 in 4. In November 1982, Andrew agreed to risk the operation, knowing that if the transplant didn't work, he would spend the life he had left in agony. His father, Alan, remembers that Andrew still had a kind of gallows humor about his outlook.
Andy, with all good nature, got out of the car and looked at me and looked around and said, well, Dad, he said, this might be the last breath of fresh air that I ever breathed. I said, great.
Edith Berkey, whose job is to counsel cancer patients at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, remembers that just before Andrew's transplant, his anger was also close to the surface.
You can sit there and listen like a good patient. He told me to shut up and leave and come back later, and, I was disgusting. And I think I was. I mean, it's not easy to sit there and listen to someone tell you that you're going to have sores in your mouth, your hair is going to fall out, you're going to be sick.
How do you describe shedding like a snake, not only on the outside and on parts of your body you didn't think you could shed on, but on the inside as well? I mean, every time you spit or coughed, you were coughing up half your stomach. I mean, pieces of your body. And to sit there and see you literally falling apart is I mean, it's almost beyond description.
You literally beat the odds just in terms of a bone marrow transplant, made it through, were healthy and survived. At that point, did you think you'd been cured again?
I gotta believe at that point I said, I guess I've had the ultimate in treatments and I've lived through it. I gotta believe now I could be home free.
Again, Andrew fought the after effects of his treatment and reclaimed the activities he loved, skiing and tennis. His father's fear that the cancer might recur after the transplant and Andrew's continued attempts to defy the disease often produced conflicts.
My father asked me how I'm doing. He actually means, how are you really doing? Are you feeling any pain? Do you feel sick? Is there anything that might indicate your disease is coming back? That's what his how you doing means. And I know that, and he knows it. And it has come down to some real heavy-duty shouting matches over that fact.
But as a parent, somehow, some way, you have the deep need to have a constant reaffirmation that everything's okay, especially when you're operating on this constant crisis level.
Alan is not going to get the answer from Andrew that he wants. Andrew cannot guarantee him that I am well, Dad. and I'm never going to be sick again. And if you ask the question over and over again, you hope to get that answer. And Alan won't get that answer, and Andrew can't give it to him.
The best that either could hope for was a kind of reprieve, another period as Andrew turned 20 and then 21, when there was no further sign of the cancer after his bone marrow transplant. He went off to Africa on a safari he and his family had dreamed about. But there, in a remote camp, he was crippled again by pain. And new medical tests in September 1984 confirmed the worst. Although the transplant had driven the cancer out of Andrew's bones, it had come back in the presence of tumors along his spine. It was at that point that another new medical treatment, another apparent last resort still in its experimental stages, became available. In early 1985, Andrew made his first trip to Amsterdam to receive radioactive injections designed to fight tumors in patients whose cancer was the type Andrew had, a neuroblastoma. Last summer, after he had made 6 previous trips here for the treatment, we accompanied Andrew on a 7th journey to Amsterdam. Tests showed his tumors had been reduced. He was so optimistic that he hoped doctors would tell him he could avoid another treatment. And instead of going to the hospital, he could steal time for travel and get on with his life. Wednesday, August 6, 1986. It is, in a way, because of Andrew's optimism that when he reports for his preliminary tests in this meeting with a physician named Kees Hufnagel, he lets himself ask a question he has never been able to ask before. He knows that 2 young children who had received the same radioactive treatment, called MIBG, have not survived.
I've thought about it before, but I don't think I've ever been brave enough to ask anyone else. But what do you think it's like, those last 2 weeks, to die of neuroblastoma?
Well, of course, every case is different, but life is getting more and more minimal if you lack blood cells. You get a lack of red blood cells. You get a lack of white blood cells. You cannot fight infections, easily bleeding.
Yeah, but do you get pain? Do you just bruise easily, or do you get a nosebleed or something? Or
usually you start to live on a lower level of activity.
You're very tired, and
they're very tired.
It's kind of waste away,
yes,
I guess.
The symptoms of anemia, that's what I usually have during the last week. These are the scans we made last
Thursday, August 7th. The test results are back, and they are encouraging.
And this is the scan made yesterday. But there is still very faintly 2 spots to be seen.
This is basically the same routine.
But the advice from Dr. Tom Vouda, one of the pioneers of the MIBG treatment, is not what Andrew wanted to hear. Vouda wants to admit Andrew for a 7th treatment.
There's a very good chance that this is the last time.
Well, I understand the fact that that's good news, but throughout the 6 years, good news is always bad news also.
For you, yeah.
Because good news is I'm getting better, but it also means I have to have a treatment. And that means more, either chemotherapy or radiation, in this case, MIBG.
Tuesday, August 12th. Andrew's mother and father have flown to Amsterdam to be near him during his hospitalization.
How about this one?
You can get it in.
That's not too painful here? Which is the one which is painful? This one?
Down, when you get down by the wrist, it really hurts like hell.
Okay. Try this one.
All right, let's think about everyone first.
The bias one. Okay. I love you. You're good.
His parents will not be allowed to touch him again until the radioactive treatment is over.
See ya.
And food will be coming tonight. You have the sandwich in your spots. So. Okay, we'll speak to you later, all right?
Okay.
Okay,
Bye, all.
we'll be in touch. Bye.
The injection begins.
Is it in?
Its initials, MIBG, stand for the radioactive isotope which will soon begin to enter Andrew's veins and which is targeted to destroy his tumors.
Oops.
The injection will last for a day, but the period in which Andrew is required to be isolated in this lead-shielded hospital room will last for a week, and the results won't be known until after the new year. No one knows what the long-term effects of this treatment might be, how it might affect those periods of good health and activity he has valued so much.
You tend to get very introspective sitting in a room of that sort, realizing what's going on and kind of wondering, I've got 200 millicuries of radioactive iodine, whatever the number is, floating through my body, and what is it doing in there?
Okay, you ready? Okay, go.
September 1986.
As hard as you can.
Less than a month after his treatment in Amsterdam, Andrew is once again hoping he'll be in shape to ski when winter comes.
All the way up, all the way back. That's as hard as you can.
He's taking a stress test in Vail, Colorado, where he'd like to begin a full-time job after the first of the year, aiding other victims confronted with crippling diseases. Andrew's pain now may be due not to his cancer, but to the 6 years of treatment.
I've got cancer, and therefore I'm going to feel some pain, and I'm going to feel sick, and I'm not going to be bright-eyed and cheery 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
I think we feel cheated for you, because most 23-year-olds don't have to compromise the way you do.
But I don't feel
you're
cheated.
alive.
I don't feel cheated myself, and I don't, therefore...
You don't feel cheated?
No. This is my life, and I don't know any other way of life. I mean, for my entire adult life, I have been sick. I've had cancer. And so I don't really know any other way of living. And to me, this is normal. I don't see myself as a terminal disease. I see myself as, I guess, a life with a few hitches in it.
What is the prognosis for Andrew right now, Bob?
Well, doctors seem to feel that this current appearance of the cancer is under control, Hugh, but Andrew will know more Monday when he flies back to Amsterdam for evaluations of the treatment that we saw him receive. In terms of his general health, nobody really knows how badly it's been harmed by the treatments, although there is already some evidence that his breathing capacity has been diminished.
We sure wish him luck. He's already been alive now 12 times as long as he was told when he was 17. Thank you, Bob. Next, a hard-fought victory for some people you met here last August.
Charles Crawford explains.
I don't know what gear anymore. Just gearing it down.
A spin of the wheel, a few minor adjustments, and the Syracuse University industrial design students are ready to demonstrate a revolutionary idea in wheelchairs.
A lot of the things that we're dealing with, we're not engineers, we're designers, but just to like riding bicycles and using common sense, that's what we're working with.
Instead of a wheel rim, 2 movable handles, operated like a rowing machine, propel the chair. In the prototype, the handles are mechanically linked to a bicycle sprocket and chain drive. Its developers explain why it was important to have the drive mechanism engage only when the handles are pushed forward.
The people that we're designing for, if they don't have any abdominal strength, if they have to push it and pull it, when they go to pull it back, they'll be pulling themselves forward by pulling themselves forward. So this way, they're always pushing away and pushing themselves back into the chair, and then it automatically comes back.
During the 2 years of research and development, nothing was left to chance. Using computer-assisted design, the chair is carefully scrutinized for structural integrity and aesthetics. To scale, working models reveal human range of motion and even the best shape for the drive handles.
We worked with our human factors buck, and we took pictures of the profile of the motions we were using, and by studying our photographs in a series, we came up with an angle that looked a lot more comfortable, and there we had it. We tried it out, and it worked.
And for David Veach, confined to a motorized wheelchair, the rowing chair allows him to do something he has never before done: move around under his own power.
Well, it allows a lot more independence. I normally use an electric wheelchair and find that I'm very reliant on the mechanical system, and if it breaks down, I just don't go.
If and when the push-pull wheelchair becomes commercially available remains uncertain, but that doesn't seem to faze its developers, who will tell you that the principal reward has been in creating something that someday may enhance the quality of life for a large number of chair-bound people. Charles Crawford, CNN, Syracuse, New York.